Okay, so just continuing on from the last video there. So then we move on to reasons for growth. So why of growth in globalization? So why is there like a considerable amount of businesses now deciding to operate all over the world? Okay. And the reasons are because of IT improvements. So it's easier now for you to communicate with people in your business in different countries and to actually communicate around with all the different businesses because of IT improvements, technology. There's export opportunities, okay? So because like the domestic market is saturated, so domestic is Ireland, okay? So like the countries that you are originate from, your market may be saturated. So for example, if I am a sports brand of a business and I like the market in Ireland for sports clothing is saturated, okay? Like it's really, really packed. I might not get a good chunk of that. So therefore that's why I might decide to go global, and that's why I might decide to export my products and operate all over the world. Barriers to trade. Okay, so before the EU ever existed, um, we had like every time we had to want to trade with another country, we'd have to pay. It would have to go through. The government. You'd have to pay money to not only transport your products, which we do, but also for your products to enter that country. Like a visa is such for your products. It's called like a tariff. um, so because they have been reduced and they all over Europe, there's none, but they are being reduced in America and Asia. So this is how businesses then can transport their product to these countries and not the pay fees and pay tariffs at the border. So the barriers to trade are opening up. So that's why people are more kind of going into globalization. Trading blocks as well. So trading blocks are like a block of countries that trade together. Okay, so a trading blocks are blocks of countries, like if you think of blocks of Lego and they're all stuck together, so they trade together. It's one like a block of countries. So the EU is an example. So these are forming around the world where countries come together and they act as like a trading bloc, and they all trade with each other. So because this is happening in the EU, many countries globalized. And economies of scale, as we mentioned before, economies of scale is when the bigger the business is, the more they produce and the more raw materials they purchase, they can produce and purchase their goods in bulk, so it's cheaper. As we know, the more products you buy, the cheaper you get them. Okay, so that's economies of scale. So that's why companies might want to go global. Now, the features of a global company. Okay, so what does a global company have? What's the features? So their operations, okay? So they have factories in different countries all over the world in order to maximize profits and minimize costs. So we constantly produce. So that minimizes the cost of, transport and so on. Um, this means they locate in countries where wages and taxes are the lowest. So if you're a global business, you operate all over the world. It doesn't matter if you're in Ireland, okay? Because if you're operating all over the world, you can go and you can move from Ireland and you can go and set up your production in Asia because the wages are cheaper and so on because you're operating all over the world. And they often use production sharing. So this means that part of the product is made in one country, shipped to another country for further assembly, and then finished in another country. So again, because you're a global business and you're operating everywhere, you might do production sharing. So if you do this, a business will do this because it's the cheapest for them. For example, it might be cheap to make the product in China. Then it might be quicker to ship it to Germany for the assembly of it because let's say plastic might be cheaper in that country, and then the final touches to it might be made in France because the paint that you use or whatever on the packaging might be cheaper there. Okay, and then that's where you operate the sales from. So it depends. Um, Marketing then. So usually the production and advertising of goods are standardized. So, but they can